Okay, welcome to today's lesson. In this video, we're going to look at argument. Argument. So what is an argument? An argument is a set of related propositions. It is a set of related propositions. And a proposition is a statement that can be true or false. Any statement that can be true or false is a proposition, right? So let's look at this argument. All lawyers are liars is a statement, it can be true or false. Peter is a lawyer is a statement, it can be true or false. Therefore, Peter is a liar is a statement, it can be true or false, right? So all these are propositions. The first statement is a proposition, the second statement is a proposition, the last statement is a proposition. So, and all these propositions, they are related. So when we have a set of related propositions, we refer to those sets of related propositions as an argument, right? So again, an argument an argument is a set of related propositions. Is a set of statements, is a collection of related statements that can be true or false, right? So let's look at the types of arguments that we have. Basically, we have 6 types of arguments. We have the deductive argument, inductive argument, valid argument, the invalid argument, sound argument, and unsound argument. So these are the 6 types of arguments that we have. Again, an argument is a set of related statements or is a set of related propositions. And a proposition is a statement that can be true or false, right? So let's look at the first type of argument that we have, which is the deductive argument. So deductive argument, what is a deductive argument? A deductive argument is an argument whose conclusion is completely drawn from the premises. It is a type of argument whose conclusion is completely drawn from the premises. It consists of 2 premises and 1 conclusion. A deductive argument simply consists of 2 premises and 1 conclusion. Example, all lawyers are liars. Bola is a lawyer. Therefore, Bola is a liar. So this is the conclusion. This is the conclusion. And the conclusion is drawn from the 2 premises. All lawyers are liars. Bola is a lawyer. So because of the fact that Bola is a lawyer, the conclusion there says, therefore, Bola is a liar, right? So a deductive argument is a type of argument whose conclusion is completely drawn from the premises. These are the premises, right? And this is the conclusion. It's very important to know that this is a type of argument that lawyers use for judgment in court cases. So this is a very important exam question, right? Lawyers use the deductive argument in judgment in court cases, right? So let's look at the next type of argument that we have, which is the inductive argument. So an inductive argument is a type of argument whose conclusion can only be drawn from its premises under probability, right? And this is what scientists they use in deducing their laws. For example, Nathan is a science student and he likes chemistry. Paul is a science student and he likes chemistry. Samson is a science student. Therefore, Samson likes chemistry. So, because of the fact that Samson is a science student, does not mean that Samson will like chemistry. There is a high probability that Samson may not like chemistry, and there is a high probability that Samson may like chemistry, right? So an inductive argument is a type of argument, like I said, whose conclusion can only be drawn from its premises under probability. So that Samson likes chemistry is under probability. So this conclusion is under what? Probability. Is under probability. And it's very important for you to know that this is the type of argument that scientists use in deducing their law. So let's look at the next type of argument that we have, which is the valid argument. So a valid argument is a type of argument whose conclusion can be drawn from the premises. It is a type of argument whose conclusion can be drawn from the premises. For example, all men are mortal. John is a man, therefore John is a mortal, right? So the conclusion, John is a mortal, is drawn from the two premises. So any argument whose conclusion can be drawn from the premises, that argument is said to be a valid argument, right? Another example is living things are composed of cells. The goat is a living thing, therefore the goat is composed of cells. So this is a valid argument. Why? Because the conclusion can be drawn from the premises, right? It can be drawn from the premises. Then let's look at the next type of argument that we have, which is the invalid argument. And this is a type of argument whose conclusion cannot be drawn from the premises, right? So if the conclusion cannot be drawn from the premises, that argument is said to be invalid. If the conclusion can be drawn from the premises, the argument is said to be what? To be valid. So example of the invalid argument: all Nigerians are black. Busola is a Nigerian, therefore Busola is not black. So that Busola is not black is an invalid argument because this argument, this conclusion, is not drawn from the premises. The premises says all Nigerians are black. Busola is a Nigerian, therefore Busola is not black. So if we say therefore Busola is black, that will be a valid argument because the conclusion was drawn from the premises. But here we have therefore Busola is not black. So this makes this conclusion an invalid one. This makes this argument an invalid one because the conclusion is not drawn from where? From the premise. The conclusion is not drawn from the premises. Another example is all men are bearded. Paul is a man, therefore Paul is not bearded. So that Paul is not bearded is a conclusion that is not drawn from the premises. So that makes this argument an example of an invalid argument, right? So again, an invalid argument is an argument whose conclusion cannot be drawn from the premises. The conclusion is not drawn from the premises, right? So let's look at the next type of argument that we have, which is sound argument. So an argument is said to be sound when it is not only valid, but such that all its premises and conclusion are also true, right? So a sound argument is simply a valid argument whose premises and conclusions are what? Are true. For example, all men are mortal. Musa is a man, therefore Musa is mortal. So this is a sound argument. Why is it a sound argument? It's a sound argument because it is a valid argument. The conclusion is drawn from the premises, and all the premises and conclusion are also true. All men are mortal. There is no man that will live forever. So man will surely die someday. Musa is a man. That's a true statement. Therefore, Musa is mortal. Yes, Musa will definitely die someday. So all these are valid and they are also true. That makes this argument a sound argument, right? So let's look at the last one we have here, which is the unsound argument. An argument is said to be unsound when either its premises or conclusion is not true. So when either its premises or conclusion is not true, that argument is said to be unsound. For example, all dogs eat grass. Dogs do not eat grass. Dogs are carnivorous animals. So this statement is not true. This statement is false, right? John is a dog. John is not a dog, right? John is not a dog. John should be a man and not a dog, although you can name your dog John. Therefore, John eats grass. John shouldn't be eating grass. John can eat cooked vegetables, but not grass, right? John should eat edible food that are cooked, right? So when either its premises or conclusion is not true, that argument is said to be unsound. So this is an unsound argument. It's an unsound argument. Why is it an unsound argument? Because the premises and the conclusion are not true, right? So that's that for argument. So just a quick recap. An argument, like I said, is a set of related propositions, is a collection of related propositions. And these are related propositions, right? So this is a set of related propositions. Like I said, a proposition is a statement that can be true or false, right? Is any statement that can be true or false. All lawyers are liars. It's a statement. It can be true or false. Peter is a lawyer. It's a statement. It can be true or false. Therefore, Peter is a liar. It's a statement. It can be true or false. So when we have sets of related propositions, that set of related propositions is what is referred to as an argument. And we looked at the types of arguments that we have: the deductive, inductive, valid, invalid, sound, and or sound arguments. And we give examples of each of the following. So with this, we come to the end of today's tutorial. In the next video, we're going to look at questions pertaining arguments and how you can approach such questions.